The Mavericks look for the season sweep against the Washington Wizards, although be it shorthanded. We'll preview tonight's game coming up next on the DLLS Mavs pregame show. Here we go. Hey, what's up, DLLS Mavs Nation? It's your man, Kevin Gray, alongside Mavericks beat writer Tim Cato. We are DLLS Mavs, your favorite guys covering your favorite team every single game night. You can find me at Kevin Gray Sports. Find our Mavericks beat writer at Tim_Cato. The Mavericks taking on the Washington Wizards tonight as they look for the season sweep at home, albeit shorthanded. Kind of a must-win tonight for the Dallas Mavericks before they begin a 5-game road trip. Really appreciate you joining us here on DLLS Sports. Make sure you like, comment, and subscribe to our channel while you're here as well. And do it for the same for our podcast, wherever you get your podcast for free. Tim Cato, what's going on?
Where's Bobby? What did you do to him?
Well, you know, I wanted my own solo show, sort of, in studio. So I kicked Bobby out. He's supposedly, quote-unquote, Stephen Jones on business today. So
okay, fine. Whatever. But I'm here. I am here, and the Wizards are here, and half of the Mavericks are here, including a new player.
That's right. We're going to get into the Mavericks newcomer, Kylor Kelley, throughout the course of our pregame show as well. Let's set it up for you for the Dallas Mavericks tonight. Of course, game number 47 of the season for your Mavericks. Tip-off at 7:30 p.m. at the American Airlines Center. The Wizards, of course, coming into tonight with the worst record in the entire association at 6-38, 1-20 away from our nation's capital so far this year. Meanwhile, the Mavericks are 24-22 so far overall, 13-10 at home this year. Mavericks 12.5-point favorite tonight at home against Washington with the over-under at 232.5. Let's get you where these teams are coming into tonight's game as well. Mavericks 9th in the West right now, just 4-6 though in their last 10 games. Dallas is though 13-5 so far this year against teams below 500 overall, just 5-11 since Christmas Day when lukadoncic strained that left calf of his. The Mavericks are 6-5 against the Eastern Conference so far this year. Dallas, after tonight, will begin what is a 5-game road trip for them beginning on Wednesday when they take on the New Orleans Pelicans. Interesting note when it comes to the Mavericks, they average 115.1 points per game this year, but have fallen short of that mark in 11 of their last 17 games, so that might give you a number to look at going into tonight's game against Washington. We mentioned it for the Wizards, though. Last in the Eastern Conference, dead last in the association. In fact, with the worst record in the NBA by a whopping 4.5 games. They're a full 7 games behind the Charlotte Hornets for the 14th best record in the Eastern Conference. The Wizards have lost 13 straight games coming into tonight's game. They've dropped its last 4 games, I should say, by double-digit margins, and 10 of their last 13 games amid this streak have been decided by at least 10 points, Tim Cato, as they are 1-19 so far against the Western Conference. Needless to say, not a very good team from our nation's capital visiting Dallas tonight, which gets us to your scouting report focusing on the big men of the Wizards, including Giannis Valanciunas and rookie Alex Sarr.
Yeah, this is not a good basketball team, and Dallas hasn't necessarily beaten every not good basketball team that they've played of late, with the obvious limitations that they have, but this is a different flavor. This is even a step lower of a bad basketball team. They're last or bottom 5, bottom 10, and, I was looking through trying to find, something interesting about them, and they're bottom 10 in almost everything. The nicest thing I can come up with, the nicest thing I can say about them is that they don't allow a lot of shots at the rim. The 7th fewest in the NBA defensively. So, a lot of that comes from Sarr and Valanciunas, who play about 48 minutes at center. Pretty much they're the 2 centers for this team, with Sarr starting and getting the lion's share of minutes. And he's a promising young big man. I think that he's going to develop into a really, really solid player. Wingspan guy, can shoot a little bit, even if he's not super efficient from beyond the arc yet, but he's willing to take those shots. But they both play drop coverage. They both are going to sag back and do their best to prevent you from getting to the rim. And like I said, they do an okay job of that. Some of that is just, that sometimes, opponents are just getting better shots. What you can do, even when they're dropping back, even when they're sagging off, they're letting the guard deal with two players at once, they allow the highest percentage when an opponent actually gets to the rim, when they actually take a shot at the rim. That's the highest percentage in the NBA, like pushing excuse me, pushing 70%. And
Wow.
So what you can do is you can get them out of position for lobs. That is something that drop coverage used to be able to. It was in some ways designed to take that away, but really masterful, calculated pick and roll navigators can find ways, can get the guard on their hip, and then they can fake into a shot, and then it ends up going up to the big man, or you can wrap it around to them, and you can just disorientate them. This is a defense that is not very good, and so sometimes these big men are just not going to be in position. It doesn't matter that sometimes they're doing the job. You can absolutely beat them to the rim and cuts, and just in other ways. Washington is the league's worst half court defense, just the worst. That doesn't mean, like, it's very important for Dallas to get points in the transition, to offensive rebound, to do all that stuff. You want to do that every single time. But I think what's really important for me in this game is that the offense has to keep working. It has to keep moving. It has to try to generate good shots, because this defense is so bad that you will. As long as you are moving the ball, as long as you are trying to. I don't want to see any 20 dribble isolation possessions, unless it's Kyrie on a good matchup and he feels like that's the best situation. But for the most part, I do not want to see these long isolation possessions, because this defense is so bad that all you have to do is try. Just try to go beat your man, get 2 feet in the paint, kick it out, drive, kick it again. You will end up with a good shot. This defense is not very good. The Mavericks are good enough to get very good shots as long as they keep running real, actual offense against them. As dictated. Washington will give up open threes. They will give up, like I said, they will give up shots, really high quality shots at the rim, even if it's not the highest share of the NBA. So just keep trying to run your actual offense. That is all I'm asking tonight. And I think if Dallas does that, then maybe that 115 mark that you mentioned just a second ago, I think that's pretty easily should be something that they can pass, and I think that gives them a really good chance to win.
A team that dropped 137 points on the Wizards in our nation's capital in the first win against it. I know lukadoncic played in that game, had the triple-double, of course, but this team and this offense should be good enough to put up points against what is one of the worst defenses in the entire association. I see a Luke in terms of the Spencer Dinwiddie, Daniel Gafford legacy game, revenge game against the Washington Wizards tonight. Let's get to the lead story for your Dallas Mavericks tonight, which again continues to be the injury front for this team, taking its toll. Maxi Kleber lost on Saturday, of course, with the broken foot. The Mavericks signed what is a newcomer in Kylor Kelley. We'll get to him a little bit later on in the show, but the two-way contract that he signed yesterday, he's a 7-footer who's a shot blocker and a rim runner. He will be in uniform tonight for the Mavericks and may see some minutes for this team to try to bolster their front court. The Mavericks size has been obviously depleted with the loss of Derek Lively II with his ankle fracture, Dwight Powell dealing with the hip strain, and now, of course, Maxi Kleber being lost to the broken foot. Daniel Gafford is going to have to continue to play big minutes for this team to be stepping up in the middle. How the Mavericks manage that will be huge. Here's what Jason Kidd had to say during his pregame presser about the importance of Daniel Gafford and the way that he's been playing as of late. Take a listen.
Yeah, I think when he looks at the injuries and he's just trying to do, everything he can to help the team, rebounding, scoring, blocking shots. He is playing a lot more minutes, and we need that right now, especially with all the injuries. And so I think he's up for the task to help the team and, win, and that's what he's doing. When you look at his ability to play games, I think he's only missed 2. And he's playing, at a high level right now. We're going to need that, especially tonight against a bigger team.
And this, Tim, is the kind of matchup that Daniel Gafford should be able to feast on. Not a very good team. Yes, the Wizards have some size, but Daniel Gafford needs to have yet another big game because he's the only true center that this team really has right now.
It's his old team. What better way, what better time to show out? And certainly Daniel Gafford has been showing out. And, total props and credit to him because he did get a little bit of criticism from us, and warranted criticism, stuff that he acknowledged, that he was not playing his best. He was not playing up to the level that he was last season. This isn't about like Derek Lively being a better player, because Derek Lively, when healthy, when on the court, is a top 50, 60 player. Daniel Gafford wasn't living up to for stretches of January and for stretches of, these past 2 months, wasn't quite up to his own standards as a really good backup center. And lately he's been really good as a replacement center, as a fill-in interim starting center. And that's an important thing for him. So we'll see. Obviously now Dallas has a kind of like for like backup, and in some ways, but in other ways, a very raw player who's never played in the NBA. But all props to Daniel Gafford, and once again, I would expect him to be playing big, serious minutes for this team, and this is a matchup that I do expect him to just be a bigger man. Go out there and be the bigger man.
Big man do tall things. Put ball in basket, as Bobby Crowell would say. Gafford will be taking on a Wizards team offensively led by Jordan Poole this year, averaging over 21 points per game and nearly 5 assists per contest. Kyle Kuzma, whose timeline isn't necessarily on the Mavericks, but at the same time, he is visiting the Mavericks tonight, averaging nearly 15 points per game and nearly 6 rebounds per contest. Defensively led by Jonas Valanciunas, who's averaging nearly 12 points per game and over 8 rebounds per contest, and rookie ALLCITY, who's averaging nearly 1.6 blocks per game so far this year. Who's leading the Mavericks offensively. That's one Kyrie Irving, averaging over 24 points per game, shooting 48% from the field. Defensively going to be led by PJ Washington, who's averaging over 8 rebounds per game, which is a career high for him. And Daniel Gafford, the aforementioned Daniel Gafford, averaging 1.6 blocks per contest so far this year. Tim started to mention a little bit earlier, this Wizards team is not very good when you start to look statistically at their profile throughout the course of the year. This is a team that's 4th worst in the NBA in terms of scoring, worst defensive rating, dead last in the NBA, giving up over 122 points per game. They got the 2nd worst field goal percentage and the 2nd worst 3-point percentage as well. And, oh, by the way, they turned the ball over quite a bit as well, 8th worst in the NBA as far as turnovers are concerned. Meanwhile, the Mavericks taking on the Wizards for what is the final time this season, as, of course, they won what was a 137-101 matchup back in early December in our nation's capital. Lukadoncic earning what was his 78th career triple-double that night with 21, 10, and 10 in a game, Tim, that they led by as many as 42 points that night in Washington. Hopefully more of the same for this team tonight as they take on Washington.
42 points. Was that an early tribute to Maxey?
Oh, I didn't even think about that. Yeah.
Yeah, no. Maybe they'll do 42 again to honor the fact that he's injured and out.
I mean, that would be nice. I mean, it's just, I'm not gonna lie to you. We were talking about this before the show started. Just the injuries that this team has suffered. I mean, you could tell Jason Kidd is like, look, man, what you want me to do with this injury report? Like, this is what it is. All these dudes are out. Like, this is what it is. And as he was reading, I'm just like, I feel for Jason so far this season with the injury front. That there.
Yeah, I think we're gonna see that with how he talked about Kylor Kelley.
Yes, but exactly.
I think we're gonna get there. So
yes, we are definitely going to get there. Coming up here in just a moment, what you need to know in terms of X factors on Mavericks Player Spotlight, and we will also dive into the newest Dallas Maverick, Kylor Kelley, and what Jason Kidd had to say about him prior to tonight's game. But first, let me talk to you a little bit about Sleeper. Bobby couldn't decide that he wasn't going to work, so he's decided to send me his picks via Tanner for tonight when it comes to Sleeper. So for Sleeper, of course, the best fantasy football league platform out there now allows you to put your ball analysis to the test by picking whether your favorite or least favorite players will have more or less in their projected stats each week. Bobby tonight decided that Kyrie Irving is going to have at least 30 combined points, rebounds, and assists. PJ Washington to hit at least 1 3-pointer, and Bub Carrington to have more than 8.5 points. If he hits, that's a 2.32 multiplier. So $5 would get Bobby $11.60 tonight. So happy picking for our guy Bobby Curley. If you think you have what it takes, new users can download the Sleeper app and insert code DLLS Mavs to get $55 in free entries when you place a $5 contest. You can apply it to any contest as well. It doesn't have to be your first. Remember, terms and conditions apply. See Sleeper's terms and use for details. Currently operational in over 25 states. And make sure you check out Sleeper today. Shout out to Bobby for tossing in his picks tonight when it comes to Sleeper. Happy picking on Sleeper. As the Mavericks take on the Washington Wizards tonight, we welcome back in our Mavericks beat writer, Tim Cato, live at the American Airlines Center as the Mavericks take on Washington. If you're going to be watching the game, you can watch it on KFAA Channel 29 tonight. If you're going to be watching the game, if you're not at the American Airlines Center. And Tim, this team has been depleted of big men. Daniel Gafford, the only true center on this team, but they did make a signing in bringing in 27-year-old Kylor Kelley, a 7-footer, 240 pounds, who has been playing with the G League South Bay Lakers. He comes in to try to help bolster this front court. Before we get to him and hit a little bit of his profile, let's get you to the injury report for tonight's game. Starting with Washington, Malcolm Brogdon, he's going to be out with a right foot plantar fascia contusion. Marvin Bagley III, he's dealing with a right knee sprain. He is out. And Saddiq Bey, he's been dealing, of course, with the torn ACL in his left knee, out for tonight's game. For the Mavericks, it's a lengthy report, unfortunately, as usual these days. Lukadoncic still remains out with the left calf strain. Dante Exum out with the right wrist injury. Maxi Kleber with the right foot fracture, Derek Lively II out with the right ankle stress fracture. Najee Marshall continues to be out with illness. Jason Kidd saying, though, pregame that hopefully he'll do some work tonight, and hopefully that means he will join them on the road trip as they have a 5-game road trip coming up. And Dwight Powell, of course, dealing with the right hip strain. But the
Jason
man
Kidd
of the
said Dwight.
Oh, sorry, go ahead.
Jason Kidd said Dwight's trending up.
Okay,
but still unsure when he's going to get back. So however you want to interpret trending up, take your guess. It does not. He is what I would take from that, and the only thing I would take from it is that this is not a Maxey or Derek Lively-esque injury. He's not out for the season. He will be back at some point this season, probably in February, but it's unclear. Also, we should note that Jaden Hardy and Klay Thompson both have the same minutes restrictions. Jaden Hardy is going to play 15 minutes. Jason Kidd said he's going to use those. Klay Thompson's going to play 24. So that's the same restrictions they were on last game as they returned, but worth noting. And I wouldn't say as we talk a little bit about Kylor, I wouldn't say Jason Kidd said for sure he was going to play, but I think he is. He said he's going to be suited up on the bench, ready to go. So it wasn't quite a pregame guarantee, but just wanted to provide that pregame context.
And Luke, we'll get to the Mavericks starters and Wizards starter there in just a moment. Appreciate you dropping that there in the chat. But yes, the newcomer for the Dallas Mavericks, Kylor Kelley, at 27 years of age, 7-foot lob threat, 240 pounds, been playing with the G League South Bay Lakers. Apparently got in this morning and will maybe have an opportunity to play tonight. Here's what Jason Kidd had to say pregame about my man Kylor Kelley and what he could potentially be bringing to this team. Take a listen.
He just got here this morning, so we'll see how he can help us, but he'll be in uniform to play.
Does he have a particular strength that you guys liked about him to bring him, call him in? Is there something in particular he does that?
Mental restriction. He's a big. There's not a lot to choose from, and so that's why we chose him. We believe that he can help.
Well, Tim, interesting comments to say the least from Jason Kidd. Like, he's here. It's kind of the best we had to choose from, so he's here to try to help us play. What did you make of what Jason had to say about Mr. Kelley?
Yeah, I mean, look, Jason Kidd doesn't give an F in a lot of his appearances with the media, a lot of his interviews, but this was a particularly notable case of him just not really caring and just being brutally honest. There was no attempt to be like, well, we think he's a part of this team's future and we really like what he's, because look, we know that's
body.
Not true. Yeah, we know that he is being signed. I hope for his sake, for Kylor Kelley's sake, that he shows a little bit, and maybe another team is willing to sign him to something small, or give him a shot in summer league again, or give him a training camp invite or something like that. But his future with the Mavericks is not any sort of future. He is here because Dallas is out every center except one, and so that is essentially what Jason Kidd said with some brutal honesty. We did talk to Kylor for a moment before the game, after Jason Kidd's presser, and so he flew in last night. But really only reported to the team this morning. He said spent a lot of the day trying to get up to date on the team sets and all of that. He's in his own words, he's a high motor, high energy guy who rolls to the rim, dunks, blocks shots, and set screens. So pretty much what you would expect. It was a total surprise to him. A lot of times you hear guys come in, and he's 27. You hear guys come in and say, well, I know this guy from AAU. I know this guy from college, from this or that. He said he's a total stranger to the locker room. He said he's even trying to still learn people's names, which I assume that's more geared towards the coaching staff than, let's say, Kyrie Irving. But yeah, this would be his first ever NBA game. Probably will be his first ever NBA game to actually get in and play minutes. He is a as rookie as new to the league as can be, even though he has a very lengthy overseas and G League experience. But he is I think he is in a lot of ways kind of like a mini Daniel Gafford. He's obviously very unlikely to give you the same offensive upside, and but he can block shots, and he can certainly throw down dunks and finish in rolling to the rim. In situations like that, it's going to be less self-created stuff in terms of him, like just getting the ball deep and kind of powering up, but certainly competent around the rim. And on the other end, shot blocker, a guy who is mostly going to play drop coverage for you. Unfortunately, he doesn't really have the switchability, and I highly doubt. I don't think Dallas will intentionally at any point ask him to go guard anybody other than a center. It's going to be drop coverage if he's out there tonight. Just keep it as simple as possible. So I would think of him much more like a mini Gafford than any other archetype.
And for him, he will be wearing number 50. So if you're going to be looking for Kylor Kelley on the floor, I mean, you can't miss him. He's 7 feet tall. But he's going to be wearing number 50 for the Dallas Mavericks, making his NBA debut tonight. The starters for your Dallas Mavericks going into tonight's game are as follows: Klay Thompson, PJ Washington, Daniel Gafford, Spencer Dinwiddie, and Kyrie Irving, your starters for your Mavericks. For the Washington Wizards, you will have Kyle Kuzma, Bilal Coulibaly, Jordan Poole, and I don't know why George's first name is escaping me. What's George's first name?
Kaishan
George. Yeah.
Right.
I looked at George.
That's what it is. That's what it is. I'm forgetting Kaishan George.
George. Shout out to him.
So I think I know why Bobby's not here. And I think that we are ducking perhaps even the biggest storyline of the night, a very sad storyline. It's the end of Jay-Z and Gortman's Mavericks career. And Bobby right now is at a dive bar, like bordering on belligerent blackout drunk, just drowning his sorrows that the GOAT man is no longer employed by the Dallas Mavericks. In fact, as soon as this ends, I may go join him. And so you might have a solo show tonight. No, I can't have you do that.
I need you for the post game, so I don't think you should.
But I'm very sad. We're very sad that.
Well, you come celebrate. Come drown your sorrows with me.
Come celebrate.
Here.
There's nothing to celebrate.
I corrected myself. Come drown your sorrows here in the studio with me.
Okay, fine. But that's the true sad storyline of the evening, I think.
Shout out to the GOAT man, because he did earn his spot on this roster, and unfortunately no longer with this team as of the moment. Let's focus in real quick on our Mavericks player spotlight tonight, and we focus on Quentin Grimes. He scored all 20 of his points in the second half against the Boston Celtics in the loss on Saturday, but we focus on him because apparently, Tim Cato, Quentin Grimes has the dunk of the year according to the NBA dunk score. His late third quarter dunk over Luke Cornett has earned him the dunk of the year so far in the NBA. So shout out to QDOT, who had 10 points in the third, 10 points in the fourth, albeit, of course, in the loss. But a poster dunk that caught the attention of the league and is the dunk of the year right now.
Yeah, and it's this metric that they use. It's all graded by Second Spectrum or Hawkeye data, and it generates a lot of this little tool, this little feature on the NBA Stats website had actually caught my eye earlier this season. It debuted. This is the first season that they've been using this, and I'm sure that there's been a little bit something written about it, but it was something that was floating around my brain as something I should reach out and figure out how do they actually go about calculating this. So now that Quentin Grimes has the dunk of the year, I think I have to do that. So hopefully stay tuned this season, not this season, like this week, next week. I can tell you exactly what's up with this little metric system that says Quentin Grimes has the best dunk of any NBA game so far. But yeah, this is I thought he was much better in the second half. I thought he was very good, just very good in the second half. I think that he still needs to be involved in the offense. Not at the expense of the team's primary options. He's not a primary option guy, but I still believe, I've said this for a long time, he should get some touches and he should get some opportunities to create for himself. I still think I kind of like, I like him getting to the rim, and I think this is a good team that he should be able to do it against this team. Should be somewhat effective, but I like him shooting threes. I like him as an off the dribble guy also. I like him getting a DHO and then coming around the screen and setting and shooting. And we talked a lot after Dallas lost to Boston, how they just didn't get threes up. Not enough. You can't take 25 threes in an NBA game, not if you're a serious team who's supposed to have this good of an offense. You can't do that. And so I think that he's somebody who should help them. I think in a game like this where I'm expecting him to get 30 plus minutes, there's unless the shots are just he should take like 7 threes. Sorry, I am rambling to get to my point. But I easily see this as a game where he can get 7 or 8 threes up, assuming they're going well down and he's getting good looks. And I think that just helps the entire offense.
Yeah, plenty of shots available for a lot of guys tonight. The question will be, will they take them? Because there will be plenty of opportunities to do so. Quentin Grimes has a chance to do that. He went 7 of 9 from the field in the second half for those 20 points against Boston on Saturday. Let's get to our X Factors real quick before we end our pregame show here. Let's start off with number 1, Tim. And that's, for me, is to get out to a fast start. The Mavericks scored at least 30 points in all 4 quarters in their first matchup against Washington back on December 5th for what was a $137 in that game, a game in which they led by 42 points. The title card for tonight, no messing around. There's no reason to mess around with this Washington team. Get off to a good start early and put the pedal to the metal and don't necessarily give them hope early on in this game, what I would say going into tonight's game.
Yeah. I mean, that's so many games are won in the first quarter. It really is that simple sometimes. I know that leads disappear, as fast as they ever have in the NBA. But if you've got a 20, if you've got a 10, if you get a double-digit lead in the first quarter, you're very likely to win the game. So get off to a fast start and don't mess around. And I will say, this was asked to Jason Kidd in the pregame press conference. Is there any need to remind the locker room that you still got to get up for a team, even though it's the Wizards, even though they've lost X of however 20 of their last 21 games, I think he said. I don't think this team is going to have that issue. I think all they have to do is look around the locker room, and see how many people aren't out there. That should be motivation enough right there.
I'm not going to lie to you. I don't want to think about this game midway through the third quarter. I'm like, this team better be up by 30, 35 by the time we get to the end of the third quarter. Because, yes, these Mavericks are depleted, but they have more than enough to get a win tonight against the Washington Wizards. We really appreciate Tim Cato joining us live from the American Airlines City. He'll be back with me in studio after the game is over with. We'll be back 15 minutes post-game after the Mavericks take on the Washington Wizards. We'll also be joined by our national NBA insider, Mark Stein. He'll be joining us live from the AAC with his thoughts and perspective on tonight's game as well. Make sure you like, comment, and subscribe to DLLS Sports on the way out the door. And again, remember, come back with us 15 minutes after the Mavericks take on the Washington Wizards. Tim, appreciate the time as always, man. We'll talk to you post-game.
See ya.
It's game time for your Dallas Mavericks as they host the Washington Wizards tonight, looking for a win before they begin a 5-game road trip. For our Mavericks beat writer Tim Cato, I'm your host, Kevin Gray. We are DLLS Mavs. We'll talk to you post-game right here on DLLS Sports after the Wizards take on your Dallas Mavericks. Y'all be good. Peace.
We all silly like the mayor.